The New York Times has allowed one of its few inquisitive journalists to have an article published on the true origins of COVID. German Lopez, on March 9th, got an article out through the New York Times wherein he opines that Democrat leaders are finally open to the possibility that COVID originated in a Wuhan laboratory. It's been 3 years since most thinking people realized that the Wuhan lab leak was almost certainly the cause of COVID, not a wet market, not a pangolin that was eaten by people. This obfuscation, or worse, manipulation by government officials, supported by big media, supported further by big tech, which would suppress other theories, has helped cause this 3-year delay in getting the truth. The truth in itself is a good thing, but a truthful expose, had it happened 3 years ago, would have certainly saved people's lives. It almost certainly would have changed relations between the Western world and China. It almost certainly would have changed how we reacted, the diabolical government reactions that we had in 2020 and 2021 from a false theory. Why are so many people either duped or manipulate? Because there's some power in it for the manipulators. The dupes, some of them feel like it takes a PhD from Stanford to have credibility. When in Wuhan, we had people on the ground, truthful and heroic, who had worked in the lab and said that there were experiments with these kind of viruses. People didn't want to pay attention. Well, actually, Democrat leaders didn't want the truth to come out. And I have classified Democrat leaders for a long time into 3 groups. Let me give you the 3. The wicked, the simple, and the ones who don't know enough to ask. If this sounds sort of like a Passover Seder expose of types of sons in a family, well, there's a good analogy here. The wicked. The ones who, for political power, are ones who will lie. They will expand their power because it's in the interest of government to have people relying on government even more. And if you can fool them into non-truths, they have government and only government to hold on to. That is wicked, and it has happened. It has been caused by some evil leaders here. I'll call them don't know to ask. The ones who might be thoughtful, but they're part of a club. The Democrat club has been an extraordinarily successful one over the last couple decades, because those who aspire to be leaders, as long as they rise fairly high, they get nominated. And in many districts, that's an automatic election these days. The media is so skewed in favor of anyone with a D next to her or his name. The club bands together very effectively. You don't see renegade Democrats running third party in elections. When you see third parties, they're typically small and they bleed off of the Republicans who, for good or for bad, allow fractiousness. The club has the element of hate on the other side, okay? So as long as another leader is hateful, there's a coalescing that comes from almost every one of the club members' messages. The leader might change, and there'll be hate rising about that leader too. That's an element that makes the club powerful. As for those who are simple, they're guided by some principle. Well, we have too many of them. The principle that, what I learned 30 years ago about Marxism must be good. Or that whatever the government says is good. For 50 years, at least, we have known that government will lie to us, okay? It was pretty evident by the early 70s that the Nixon administration and the Johnson administration had been lying to us about foreign and domestic affairs. We've had 50 years, we've had journalists whose mission used to be to ferret out lies. And when they were so prevalent coming from government, they deserved to be exposed. Now we have cover-ups. Now we have a media that is in sync with government even when their officials lie. Democrats, like Bernie Sanders, were once very anti-big government. And they were certainly anti-big corporation. Modern Democrat leaders tie big government with big corporations. In the process, they make the rest of us dependent on both, and they enhance their own power. It is despicable. Where's the wise son, the wise Democrat leader? Literally, I don't think there is one anymore. I don't think we have a single prominent elected Democrat who has wisdom. Joe Manchin borders on it. We had a couple past presidential candidates on the Democrat side who seemed to have some element of thought that they weren't afraid to expose. I expect some people who run for office are more thoughtful, but once again, either the club or their fealty to media keeps them from exposing their true thoughts. Wise leaders are no longer Democrat leaders. The cowardly ones who do get elected don't deserve to be leaders. Wisdom is inhabited by rank and file. There are Democrat voters who are wise. And I wish more of them would actually run for office. Until then, we're at the expense, the mercy. They don't have mercy, actually. We are fighting against those three groups of Democrat leaders who do not have our good intentions in mind.